In this module, I want to talk about what context engineering means. And to know that, I guess we have to know what is context and a context window. Well, this is amount of memory or tokens that a model can store at any given time and reason against. And so that becomes very important when you're working with AI models to create something. What's in their context window will greatly impact what you get out. In fact, even though we hear about very large context windows coming out, typically we find that the models degrade over the course of that context window. It's not like a 1-to-1 ratio of once it's full, that's bad. It actually can start degrading at 60, 50, 40% of full. And so if prompt engineering is the art of crafting the prompt in such a way that the AI won't go off the rails, context engineering expands on that to make sure that we're providing the right information to the model at the right time. Now, I just convinced you in the last module that prompt engineering is important. So now I get to tell you, it's actually not about better prompts, it's all about context engineering. So what ends up in the context window? It's not just your prompt, it's a lot of other things. It could be the system prompt, your prompt, which is called the user prompt, the code-based structure it may have discovered, any current files you have open, any recent changes you've made, any conventions and rules that you've defined, the available tools that the agent can use and then their outputs, any built-in long-term memory you might have, any searching that it's already done for files or work it's done to understand code flow or edits we've made recently, and any output from any building and testing it's due and any other MCP data. You can see it can add up really quickly. And your context window for your AI agent is kind of like RAM. It's very limited and very precious. So in order to tame your context window, I want to talk about the 4 context failures that happen during code generation. First is context poisoning. So that's when early hallucinated code might keep getting referenced repeatedly, right? So if the AI invents some non-existent function, it could keep trying to use that even after you've said, hey, that function doesn't exist, because it's still in the context. Context distraction is when there's too much history and it drowns out the current task, right? So if we include the entire file history when I just need to fix a single function, that can actually make things worse and make the AI go off the rails faster. Context confusion is when irrelevant files or other tools are in the response, right? So that's if I have, some sort of React or database that I'm not using, but I have that MCP enabled, I might get suggestions for that, even though I'm in a Vue.js project with a completely different database. And the fourth is context clash. So that's conflicting information from different parts of your code base. For example, you might have an old API and a new API version, and they're both there. You don't want them both in the context if you're trying to build only for the new API. So given those challenges, let's talk about some strategies for context engineering. First, write and select. You want to control what's in that context. You don't want to have some sort of magical thing happening where you can't see when context is being condensed. You want to instead control that as the human, use long-term memory like the agents.md file, and have persistent project context where it matters. And then you as the human want to control what files are loaded and other pieces of context are loaded at any given time so that you know what is in that context and can shape the result based on it. Next is compress. Again, we want to summarize any lengthy errors or conversations or ideas before we try to use them in getting things done. Methods like what we talked about with research, plan, and implement can help you compress as you go. And in fact, you can have the AI tool write that to like a progress.md or a to-do.md file that you can then scrutinize as a human before the next round of prompting. Again, you don't want this to be some magical black box you don't have control over. And last, isolate. Use scratch pads, use new agents when it makes sense, and then only load the relevant tools and MCPs to the problem that you're trying to address in this given context. Once you've gotten comfortable with prompt and context engineering with one agent, then you're ready to take it to the next level and manage a whole fleet of agents. We'll talk about that in the next module.